Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCray.
And I'm human number two, John Lehr.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And the title of today's episode is You Sasquatch My Back, All Sasquatch Yours, or Big Feet Make Big Footnotes. So John, I know you have a cold today. I know you have a cold today. You're nursing a cold.
For that. Yes, I'm. Everyone in Los Angeles seems to have something going on right now, and I have a horrible head cold in the summer, which I can't. Nothing more pleasant than a head cold in the summer. Hot summer with a cold. It's just fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you showing up.
Oh my God,
gutting it out and being here.
I'm a professional.
If you need to just lay down, just take the headphones and the microphone and lay down on the ground. Do like a Jim Morrison down there.
I'll do it. He also recorded in the bathroom, so maybe I can do that later.
Yeah,
too.
feel free.
Not that I'm not having any stomach issues.
Okay. All right. So just to give you a little background on this topic for this episode. Since COVID has ended and the lockdown's over, I've been driving to work a lot more. And on my way to work every morning and on the way home, I've been noticing a lot more bumper stickers on cars featuring Sasquatch or the Bigfoot.
Too.
Yeah.
What's the deal with Bigfoot? He's suddenly back?
I don't know. I mean, it's usually I'll see it and it will be a silhouette of Bigfoot and it will say something like, I believe. Or maybe sometimes I see like Bigfoot believes in me, putting a twist on it or something.
That's nice.
And and I know that Bigfoot has been used to sell, Jack Link's beef jerky. They had the messing with Sasquatch. I
bought the jerky just because of that.
I know, me too. I love it. It's always like some guy like doing a practical joke on Sasquatch, and then Sasquatch gets mad and slaps him or something like that.
Yep.
But and then I was at the hardware store recently and I was waiting in line and they were selling up near the checkout. They were selling Dr. Squatch men's hand soap. And apparently, in the illustration, the logo for Dr. Squatch.
It's made out of dead Bigfoots?
I don't know.
Like what?
It's a soap for men.
Okay.
Made by, the company's name is Dr. Squatch. And has a drawing of a Sasquatch. He's smoking a pipe and he's wearing a tie and he has like a robe on. He's kind of a Hugh Hefner-ish Sasquatch, a very elegant looking Sasquatch.
Love that.
And then Mary and I were going out to dinner not too long ago and I was driving and we were stopped at a light.
Mary, by the way, is I'm sorry to interrupt, but is our senior VP of marketing for Intro to Anthro.
Right. She's just been brought on board.
Yeah.
She came up with these lovely mugs.
Look at that coffee cup. Well done. Look at you doing product placement right when we mention it. Well done.
The swag.
Nailed it.
All right. So we were sitting at a light and I glance over next to me at the car next to me and it's a Ford Bronco. And there's a factory installed emblem with a silhouette of Sasquatch. And it says Sasquatch on it. And apparently the Sasquatch is a custom package that you can get on your Ford Bronco.
No way. That's genius. God,
it has a shorter drive ratio, Bilstein shocks, locking front and rear axles, 17-inch wheels, and 35-inch. Yeah.
If you're chasing Sasquatch, you need front and back axles.
Yeah. And it's a 35-inch mud terrain tires, which that's probably like the whole Sasquatch.
Yeah, that's it right there. You could run him over and not kill him with that height.
But I was like, to me, John, that was my deadhead sticker on the Cadillac moment. I was like, what the hell, man? It's like,
I know.
What won't Sasquatch shill at this point? It's like, what next? Is it going to be reverse mortgages or something? It's just like Sasquatch is everywhere.
Somebody just took that idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a Bigfoot bar, very famous bar nearby me on Los Feliz Boulevard.
Really?
Yeah, it's a good bar too. It's quiet, dark. It's called
Is it
Bigfoot.
themed with
Oh yeah,
Bigfoot inside?
all,
Oh man.
yeah. I've always hoped to take you there someday because I know what a
Yeah.
fan you are. Now, before you dive in, and I know you, this is probably annoying, but just for those of us, the lay people, explain how Bigfoot fits into anthropology because he's a possible missing link.
Yeah, to me, well, I'll say a couple of things. If he's a bipedal primate that still exists in North America, then he definitely fits into physical anthropology, the same as any other bipedal primate would be, like an Australopithecus afarensis or any of the other Homo erectus, any of those others.
That one.
All right.
Every time.
I was holding back. I didn't want to say it, but I do.
Got it.
The other way he fits in is from a folklore standpoint.
Yes.
And so as anthropology also includes folklore, then he's also all the belief systems that go with Bigfoot or all the legends of Bigfoot also fit within cultural anthropology.
Yes. Because we don't like the idea that we're all alone out there. Don't you think?
I think so. Yeah.
And that has a little bit to do with it. Like, here's some cousins.
Yeah. Because they're still out there.
Yeah.
It's not quite, we don't know everything. I think that's what we like to know.
Boy. Ain't that the case? Ain't that the truth?
But the point is
kicking in.
John's been tooting up with some nasal spray.
That's all I have left. I quit everything. I've been sober so long. All I got left is anti nose drops and cough drops. That's it.
Just leave it up there in your nose. I mean, just leave it up in your nose.
Just put the thing up here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Leave it there. But anyway, all of this, to me, like you were saying, it's Bigfoot is everywhere now. Yeah. And I'm like, he's more popular and ubiquitous than he's ever been. I think.
I agree.
Yeah. And, back in the 70s, there was Leonard Nimoy's In Search Of, and they would always do something on Bigfoot.
Right.
Then there was Unsolved Mysteries, and they would always do something on Bigfoot.
Right.
And then now we have even other shows that are still on the air, like Finding Bigfoot, Expedition Bigfoot, Mountain Monsters, Monster Quest. All of these shows are still featuring Bigfoot. And even when Bigfoot used to be reported just in the Pacific Northwest, and you're now getting reports of Bigfoot in Minnesota, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas.
Come on. He's not going to go to Florida.
It's so hot.
Or Texas. It's hot.
With all that fur.
And in Texas, it's got to be the chupacabra, don't you think?
Well, at least chupacabra has no fur on it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I guess he's a goat. Are you sure? Doesn't he have fur a little bit? I don't know.
No, chupacabra is goat sucker. But he himself is supposed to have no fur. He's like hairless with fangs.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah.
He's like Nosferatu.
Yeah.
What's the thing that's running around Pennsylvania? What do they call it? I know that you said Sasquatch, but wasn't there something up in there that was running around?
The Pine Barrows or something, the Jersey Devil? Is
the
that
Jersey Devil, that's it.
I don't know much about the Jersey Devil. I've come across it a few times, but I don't know much about it.
Episode idea. There you go.
There we go. We got to go out in the field and look for these things. But the thing is, and they even report seeing him here in New Mexico now.
Jesus.
So again, it's like his range is increasing. Which should be increasing our opportunities to see a Bigfoot or to come across a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And yet we still don't have any physical evidence of a Bigfoot. Conclusive physical evidence.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the videos, the photographs, obviously the footprints. We have some audio screams out in the woods at night. But we have no poop. We have no scat. We have no fur, no bones, no skull, and we don't have a type species, meaning that we don't have a body. And you
Oh,
would
that's
think
the technical term. Type species means body.
type species is the first one that we find, or something that is a example of that species that's definitive of what it is.
I see. The first like smoking gun. Here it
Right.
is.
So like if you find a new species of fish, you want a type species of that fish to show people of what this is.
Yeah.
So.
First thing you do is kill it. So you got it.
Yeah, exactly. You need that type species and nobody's going to believe you.
First thing you do when you discover a new species is kill one.
Yeah. And so, but it's, again, if he's all over the country now, you would think that somebody would have hit him with a car by now.
Yeah.
You find a Bigfoot carcass out on the side of the road.
Oh, yeah. He'd be hooked on fentanyl by now. I mean, he's got to... We would have crushed him.
Yeah.
We would have sucked him up into our cancer.
Yeah. Yeah. We evolved him real quick and got him hooked, and then now he's extinct. So,
exactly.
A period of like 3 days. Or I'm even thinking like some old white guy would have shot him by now. I think, old white guys would shoot anything that comes in their backyard or near their house, and yet hear about
all old white guys are good for anymore.
Yeah.
Killing stuff.
Just keep an eye. Just sit by the dining room window and wait for a Sasquatch to come, and then shoot that thing.
Yep.
And I've recently drove from New Mexico out to Indiana, and I was seeing dead armadillos by the side of the road, all through Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana.
Wow. Is that because now I don't remember seeing armadillos growing up in Kansas when we grew up.
No,
so it's got to be the change of the climate, right? The climate change.
Right. Exactly.
And so you're tying that into Sasquatch. You're saying the climate change is forcing Sasquatch to head to Florida.
I don't know. All I'm saying is it's odd, but when a species, when their range expands, you think that you would start to see them more, which is what happened to the armadillo. And I had to check it when I got home because, I'm the same way. It's like, I never saw armadillos in Kansas.
No. Mm-mm.
And I looked online and they're like, in the last 25, 30 years, the range of the armadillo has gone farther north.
Jesus.
So
is the world about to blow up?
I don't know.
It's so crazy.
There has to be some sort of mythical legend about when dead armadillos are seen everywhere.
They're such weird creatures, armadillos.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they're weird.
You're an armadillo. You're an armadillo,
yes,
aren't you?
I am. You mean, what do you mean?
Yeah. I'm talking about, I actually saw the dead armadillos on the road, but you went to Northwestern, aren't they?
Northwestern we're wildcats. But we have a special day called Armadillo Day where everyone takes mushrooms. There was actually a day set aside on the college calendar for every student person to take mushrooms. I don't know how that happened, but it was the best thing that ever happened to Northwestern. Because this was during Reagan years and they were so uptight. And then you'd see these people tripping their balls off on mushrooms. It's the craziest thing. It was fantastic.
And the school supported it. The school,
I mean, they looked the other way. The entire campus was on mushrooms.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. That was Armadillo Day. I always thought they were the armadillos.
No, I don't know how the armadillo got caught up in all of that.
Yeah. Interesting.
The whole thing is just crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's canceled now.
It is after we talk about what
now they're all microdosing. But back then we were macrodosing, damn it.
So anyway, all of this has got me thinking that we've willed Bigfoot into existence. Like at this point, it doesn't even matter whether or not he physically exists. He does exist now, I think, because of how we've accepted him into our culture.
We need him.
Yeah. And it's become sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, I think, or a self-fulfilling belief system in that, you believe that he was there. and then people start seeing him everywhere.
Yeah.
And, I always, it reminds me of, remember how the Kilroy was here, that graffiti
Yes.
with the guy with the long nose.
That was like World War II, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then after World War II, all through the 70s, people were, you'd be somewhere remote, like out in the middle of France or something. And you see somebody had written Kilroy was here with that nose.
Yeah.
And it was always the joke was everybody was in on it, that we knew that everybody was writing Kilroy was here. But no one ever really thought that there was a guy named Kilroy
right
out there,
Right.
But with Bigfoot, there's a belief system, and now pretty much everybody believes if somebody reports that there's a Bigfoot, there's a large percentage of Bigfoot enthusiasts who will accept that that was a Bigfoot being seen in that area.
Not me. I'm not buying into this.
But you and I are not strangers to Bigfoot.
No, we are not. This runs deep.
Yes. And in the early 2000s, we did a show
called Bigfoot, The Donner Party, and My Arrest, which was a solo performance. Well, it was a duo performance because you introduced me. You also directed it and co-wrote it. And in that, it was called a comedic lecture, where the conceit was that I was teaching a class, perhaps a lecture based on one of our heroes, Buckminster Fuller, that you turned me on to, the inventor of the geodesic dome, amongst other things. But he would give these 8-hour long lectures when he was teaching at Black Mountain College. And they're just amazing. He's in this suit and, he's got the old lavalier. So we were like, let's do a solo show with that kind of conceit. Yeah. So I would come out in a suit with a blackboard and a podium, and I would do a lecture, an hour long, but it was comedy. And Bigfoot, The Donner Party, and My Arrest was comparing Grover S. Krantz, who is a Bigfoot anthropologist, I guess. Anthropologist. And then George Donner, the leader of the Donner Party, that, they all cannibalized each other. And me, John Lehr, and we decided how all three of these men were similar because they'd all made a series of bad mistakes.
Right.
And it was, I think it was our most popular lecture.
Yeah, there was a lot for people there was something in there for everybody, I think.
Yeah, because we did a few of these. We did like 6 of them.
Yeah.
And it in LA, and then we went to New York with them. But that one was always one that everybody loved.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was great about Grover Krantz, and the reason we picked up on it, is when we were putting the show together, he actually passed away. And I had seen his obituary in the LA Times. And Grover Krantz was a legitimate physical anthropologist. And through the 70s on In Search Of, I had seen him talk about, they'd always go to him to talk about Bigfoot and get his thoughts about whether or not Bigfoot existed. And then I'd seen him in the 1980s on In Search Of, they had brought him up. And then when I was actually in grad school myself, I was talking with one of my professors had asked me what I had done before I'd gone back to grad school. And I was telling him about our show. And I mentioned Grover Krantz. And he was like, Grover Krantz? I knew Grover Krantz. He goes, Grover Krantz was my professor at Washington State University.
Wow. And
he was like, everybody loved Grover Krantz. He was a great professor. But, he had that Bigfoot thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so to me, it's like now Grover Krantz is part of my academic lineage.
That's
he's
funny.
like, it's like you have the coaching trees in the NFL, or like, martial arts, you have the master, like your master studied under such as a Grover Krantz is now part of my academic tree.
Amazing.
So I thought today we could look at Bigfoot in a little bit more depth and just kind of talk about why people believe in Bigfoot, I think is what we'll take a look at today. Or why.
Excellent.
And, I'm not going to say I believe in Bigfoot, and I'm not going to say I don't believe in Bigfoot, but I believe that, you got to have evidence.
Right. I'm
in a
different, I don't believe.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you got to, and that's why Grover S. Krantz went crazy.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure we'll get to.
Yeah. And again, it's like, I'm open to it, but you got to show me, I need real evidence.
Yeah. You know? It's like anything. Yeah. You got, is it possible? Yes, it's possible. But until I see it, it ain't real. Right. That goes with a lot of facts out there. This is very apropos to America right now. You got to prove it.
Okay. So first off, for those of you who may not know or may not be familiar with Bigfoot or Sasquatch, we'll go through a quick little synopsis of who Bigfoot is, or what Bigfoot is purported to be. It's supposed to be an unknown species of bipedal primate, or a type of upright walking ape like us. Supposed to be 6.5 to 8 feet tall, covered in hair all over its. What's that?
With the family for a while.
yeah.
Harry and
did
the
you watch
Hendersons.
that show or that movie, or did you?
Oh yeah, I love that movie. It's a good movie. Yeah, all right. Highly recommend.
He's 6.5 to 8 feet tall, weighs approximately 500 to 800 pounds.
Jesus,
people think. He's also reported to smell very bad. People describe the smell as a mix between feces and sweat.
Ooh.
Yeah. Which is basically how everybody smells when they go camping, in my opinion.
That's true. That is true.
And I would say probably for most archaeologists, that's a smell you know very well if you've been out in the field or at field school.
That's right. That's right. And also for drug addicts, we know about that smell.
Yeah.
That's the end of a hard night of drinking.
So it's kind of when people are like, I smelled something horrible out there in the woods. It's like, who knows what that thing was, Oh,
excuse me.
Also, Bigfoot is supposed to communicate with high-pitched screams. And you can find, if you go online, you could find a lot of Bigfoot researchers calling out into the woods and then recording the responses they get back. And
it's always this. That's the part that doesn't make sense. Why would he talk like that? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I've always thought that was another group of Bigfoot researchers out in the woods who were like just communicating to each other. Like, did you hear that? Did you hear that?
That is the ultimate example of the echo chamber.
And but mostly Bigfoot's known by, of course, the big footprints. Yes. And the footprints are human-like. They're 14 inches long, usually, very wide. And the toes are all about the same length, and there is no arch on the foot.
Yes.
It's just a very flat foot.
Very similar to anyone's drawing of a foot if asked to draw a foot on a piece of paper.
I was going to say, without the arch, that's very similar. That might be my dad out there. My dad had really flat feet.
So our friend Carlos, who gave us a very good review of our show.
Yeah.
Also has big slabs of meat for feet.
Now, when you search online for Bigfoot, you will find a lot of books about Bigfoot.
Hell yeah.
And most of the time, they're written from a point of view of somebody who believes in Bigfoot or thinks that they have evidence of Bigfoot. You will also find, one of the books I found very interesting was this book called Yeti Love.
Oh my God. How did you find that?
It's out there. It's out there. Anonymous. You can't find who it's written by.
Of course, they don't want you to know.
It's a coloring book, and it's all full of like really ripped Bigfoots with really hot women.
Jesus. What the hell? Oh my, a coloring book. That is a mash of so many different. My brain is about to explode over that.
Yeah.
The coloring book. Okay. Somebody drawing hot pictures of okay, that's crazy. Well, he doesn't even look like Bigfoot there. He's got skin.
I think he shaved a little bit.
Yeah, who's the actor who plays Aquaman?
Oh yeah, Jason Momoa.
That's
Jason
who he
Momoa.
looks like there. That
Yeah.
picture.
How about this one?
Oh my God. Yeah. See, he's ripped. You can see his abs.
I know. There's
I
other.
don't get
It's
it.
a 400-page long book. How about there's one you were talking
My
about?
God, so many. There you go. That's
Yeah.
Bigfoot with a
Yeah.
girl, with a human woman who's
Yeah.
naked. Jesus, what is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? That, for some reason, that really disturbs me. You know what disturbs me? Is the fact that it's a coloring book. That's
Yeah.
the part that disturbs me the most. Porn I can deal with, but why release it in that format?
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
God, is that weird and funny as hell.
400 pages. 400 pages.
It's like, you know what? It's like Los Angeles. It's disturbing, chaotic, but goddamn, I'm happy it exists.
I think, I can't figure out, is it a woman who's really into Bigfoots?
No, I don't.
Or
really?
is it a man who sees himself as a Bigfoot who wants to have sex with really hot women?
Yeah, you're right, because it's not explicit sex. It's very romantic. No. It's almost like the covers of those books that people read.
Right.
Romance novels.
Yeah.
But instead of whoever,
instead of Fabio, it's Bigfoot.
Instead of Fabio, it's Bigfoot.
Yeah.
That is I met Fabio once, by the way.
Did you?
Spent the night with him in a strip club.
Really?
Yes. I was working on a movie called Eddie, starring Whoopi Goldberg. And it was a bunch of basketball players because the basketball players were all on strike. So they got all these great, and the Tyson, this was back when Tyson was fighting. There was a Tyson fight, and the movie rented out a strip joint for all of the basketball players to go watch it. Isn't that the craziest thing?
Yeah,
and we went to go watch the Tyson fight in a strip joint, no strippers, with Fabio was in the movie, so he was there.
So it was a strip club without strippers. That's what
crazy.
Yeah. Did you talk to him? Was he a nice guy, or was he?
Yeah, I don't know if he was nice. I guess he was. He was Fabio. I mean, I didn't have any problems with him. He was okay.
Yeah. But you're right. Those the Yeti love, you could substitute Fabio in there. Or maybe they did. Maybe they just took Fabio out of some romance covers in there.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. So as far as hypotheses as to what Bigfoot may actually be, we've said already that maybe an unknown species of bipedal ape. Mm-hmm. There are some people who also say that Bigfoot is a descendant of Gigantopithecus, which is a giant ape that lived in Southeast Asia about 2 million to 300,000 years ago.
He's then also the abominable snowman. We think it could be a giant. Is that what? Anyway,
or a cousin of it. They think the abominable snowman. There's similarities, but he's a little bit different. So maybe it is the same. I mean, if it were the same species, maybe there would be some variation in that species. But the thing is, when we discovered Gigantopithecus was back in 1935 in China, and an anthropologist or archaeologist had gone into he was in China. He went into a traditional apothecary, and they were selling things called dinosaur bones. And he was looking at them, and they looked like very large ape teeth. And that's what got him looking around for it. And since then, we found a lot of Gigantopithecus jaws and teeth. And,
amazing.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Because he was just like, that doesn't look like a lizard. What the hell is that?
What's that doing here?
Yeah. And I think they just did, a couple weeks ago, they did some DNA work on Gigantopithecus and realized that Gigantopithecus is actually related to modern orangutans.
Really?
So, yeah. So he probably moved a little bit like an orangutan, or so again, it's like, well, if we're saying Bigfoot's supposed to move pretty quickly, which I don't see how that would be.
Yeah, I don't. By the way, my dog looks like an orangutan sometimes, I think. I call him an orangutan.
Really?
Yeah.
Go get him. Go get him. Put him
Come
up to
here,
the
Earl.
camera.
I don't know where he is. He's somewhere around here.
What's he doing? Is he walking on two legs?
Well,
or is he...
he's a golden retriever mix.
Yeah.
But when I get him on his back and he's looking up at me, he's got the fringe coming off of his legs, and it looks like, and he's kind of yellowish, and I just call him a, that's how I refer to him, as you little orangutan.
Yeah, yeah. What was it? That movie with Clint Eastwood, where remember Every Which Way But Loose, he had that orangutan. And...
Right turn, boom, and he hit somebody.
Clyde. Right turn, Clyde.
Jesus.
Yeah, maybe you and Earl can go
with those things. I can't believe nobody got their face pulled off. Because that's what those creatures do. They pull your face off. We've talked about this.
Yeah, yeah.
And you think I'm kidding? Like, I'm not. I'm saying, I'm very literally, they pull your face off.
Yeah.
Why do they always pull people's faces off? You hear about that a lot. They just, our face freaks them out.
It's their face and the genitals. They always pull the genitals off.
The genitals and the face.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Ooh,
I'm not. Think about that next time you want one as a pet. God.
We have to do an episode on people who have raised chimps as human babies.
That's fine by me, but we're not going out in the field for that one. I'm not going over to their house. I don't want to be near one of those things.
Wear a cup if we do that.
And a hockey mask.
Hockey mask and a cup
you give over me your cup and a hockey mask. I'll go in and interview him.
Go in and have a beer and smoke a cigarette with him, because that's what they love.
They all love to smoke.
Other people claim that Bigfoot is an extraterrestrial or interdimensional being because Bigfoot sightings are supposed to coincide with UFO sightings.
Yeah, that's because the same drunk guy was out looking at both of them.
Well, even Grover Krantz in his book, he talks about the lunatic fringe. And he would say, everybody would contact him all the time and want to talk about.
I have his book somewhere.
Do you still have a copy?
I have a copy somewhere.
I have his book right here.
Big footprints. There it is.
Big footprints. Later released as Bigfoot Sasquatch Evidence, the anthropologist speaks out.
Jesus.
And then you know what? He also wrote Only a Dog, which is a book. It's a memoir about his relationship with his Irish wolfhound, also named Clyde. Remarkably. Yeah. It's a great book.
Dr. Krantz,
lovely book.
He went south on us towards the end
there. And probably the most famous Bigfoot evidence that we have is the Patterson film. Jesus. And I think you know the Patterson film.
I sure
it's the one
do.
everybody always references the Patterson film.
Yeah.
It's like the
zipper.
Yeah, it's like the Zapruder film of Bigfoot.
Yeah, where he's running, he stops, he looks at the camera, and then he keeps running or something like that.
Right. And over the past 50 years, there's been a lot of people who have analyzed that film. A lot of people. And some people are saying, yeah, it's conclusive. Some people are saying, no, it's obviously a hoax. And ultimately, it's just another piece of visual evidence to me. And we still don't have an actual body.
Right.
And, I won't say, I don't know. I don't want to get into it because you can go down a wormhole where people are like, yeah, but what about this? Or, yeah, but look how it's walking. Yeah, but,
Well, like any conspiracy theory, that's what happens.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, Patterson had written, it all happened in 1967 in Northern California. Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin were both walking, or both out on horses, and they were looking for a Bigfoot at the time.
There you go.
And then remarkably,
they also had a fursuit in their saddlebags.
Well, they also saw Patterson had written a book about Bigfoot the year before, and he was set to go on tour to promote his book.
He just needed something to lift it off.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I wasn't there. I don't know.
I'm saying it.
I'm keeping an open mind. You could say it.
He had a 16 millimeter camera in one saddlebag and a suit that fit his buddy Rob in the other. What were they? Roger and Robert?
Roger and Robert. Yeah.
Robert, put it on.
And it's just odd to me. Like, what are the odds statistically that you've written a book about Bigfoot, you're going out looking for a Bigfoot, and you see it? I mean, all these TV shows that we have on have no Bigfoot footage.
Yeah, 0% chance.
Yeah. The other thing, they both had rifles, but apparently they had decided before they went out, if they saw one, they wouldn't shoot it.
Yeah. An 8-foot, 500-pound thing running high speeds.
Yeah.
I'd be firing away. I'd be galloping and firing.
Yeah.
And screaming.
Like John Wayne and Brewster Cockburn, like 2 rifles going after that thing.
Yeah. And it's screaming. And you know what I'd be screaming? Those high-pitched sounds that you heard in the recording. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Because I grew up around hunters, you know what I mean? And I know when you get excited, you're out, and something pops up. People shoot at anything.
That's how they all get shot. Everybody gets shot. There's a famous bar in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where they have this little shelf that going around the bar. And when I was in there drinking years and years ago, and there was a reflective hunter's cap, a few of them in a row on the thing. And I said, what are those? Oh, those are hunting injuries. Those are people who've been shot. Each time a hunter gets shot, we put a reflective hat up there. And he says, by the end of the season, deer season, the whole goes all the way around the bar.
I mean, my mom shot my brother in a hunting accident.
Famous story. It's one of my favorite stories.
Shot his toes off.
That and your what do you call it? Your birthmark on your butt of Ireland.
Oh, no.
Is it Scotland or Ireland? It's Ireland.
The mark.
But she shot your brother's toes off.
Yeah, in an accident. And the same day when they took my brother in, they were like, "Oh, McCray, were you in here this morning?" It was the same day my uncle had shot my cousin.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've known you for 40 years, and I'm just learning that. That's fantastic. I just love because your mother was so sweet.
Yeah.
And I just love the idea of her shooting her son's toes off. Oh my God.
Devastated her.
And he would take it off, right? Every Mother's Day and show him.
Yeah. Just let her know. It's still there. God. But again, you just see that that's what you get enough scotch in people and get rifles and guns, and everybody. I think I'm the only McCray that was never shot.
That's amazing.
Actually, and thank God they had all quit hunting by the time I came up. The family had broken apart, but I was like, I'm still a little nervous. The odds are statistically I'm going to get shot at some point. That's
true. McCrays have 100% chance of getting shot.
But anyway, Grover Krantz was one of the guys who analyzed the Patterson film and felt that it was authentic.
Okay.
He said he had talked to Patterson, he had talked to Gimlin, and what he said was that Patterson, when he was expecting, if it was a hoax, Patterson would have an answer to all the film problems.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, he said Patterson was always able to come up with some excuse for why the film was the way it was. But he said the one thing when he talked about the actual creature and how the creature walked and the propulsion of a biped, he said that it was kind of out of Patterson was out of his depth,
See,
so
this is what kills me about Grover S. Krantz, because it's the same thing with Cripplefoot, which I'm sure you're going to bring up soon. But he attributed all of this knowledge to this evidence, and there's nothing to back it up. But how does that work psychologically? You're a scientist who knows stuff. But yet one guy is telling you a story, and that's enough to sway you completely.
Right.
It's unbelievable what the human brain can do. Because when you so badly want to believe something, you can justify it. No matter, it's amazing.
Yeah. And I think if people give you a hard time about it, even as a scientist, there's a part of you that wants to prove it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Do you want to? He wrote something in his book about possible hoaxes.
Yeah, that's true.
Can I throw it over to you to read that?
Yes, I would be honored to read this. This is from Big Footprints by Grover Krantz. He writes, a standing bear could be mistaken for a Sasquatch, provided the observer did not see the bear's protruding muzzle, narrow shoulders, or short legs. It is similarly possible that an observed Sasquatch was assumed to be a standing bear. An oddly shaped tree stump or rock formation could be mistaken for a Sasquatch if they were only briefly glimpsed. The observation may indeed be of a bipedal primate, a man dressed in furs, and viewed under circumstances that did not permit a clear estimate of size. This could be just coincidence, or else the man in furs was deliberately costumed to get the desired effect. Anyone attempting this is risking his life. That is such a fantastic quote.
Yeah, yeah. You see how even he knew, like, if you go out there in the woods and I think that's a warning to other, like, possible Bigfoot hoaxers. It's like, you're going to get shot out there.
And you know who's going to shoot him is Grover S. Krantz.
Yeah.
Is his middle initial S?
It's S.
Okay, good, because I keep calling him that. I just love that, or the opposite could be true.
Yeah.
It could be, you think you're looking at a bear and it might be a Sasquatch. It's like, yes, everything is everything. It could be a potato. It could be.
But it's very, I don't know. He's very authoritative. Like, I love Grover Krantz. Like, I'm a very sympathetic for Grover Krantz.
Me too.
I have a lot of respect for Grover Krantz.
And I relate to him. I relate to the human side of him big time. Because I am Grover Krantz. We all have a Grover S. Krantz inside us.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah. And I've read, preparing for this, I read, like, his other academic articles and stuff. And like, he's legit. Like, he was, like, a lot of stuff was really good. He always, people would disagree with it for certain things, but I mean, that's all part of the process, the peer reviewed process. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for him, but I'm also very sympathetic for Grover Krantz.
Oh, I have so much empathy for him because he's creating, without knowing it, a prison of his own making.
Yeah.
And I can so relate to that. It's such a human thing.
Yeah.
The hope is so high that we end up just buying in.
Yeah. Overlooking other things.
Overlooking everything that we've been trained to do. Everything. Yeah. Like, people look at the election or all of these things, I totally get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want it so badly.
There's another anthropologist named David Dangling who also reviewed the Patterson film and says it's a complete hoax in Dangling's
Dangling. Dangling, shut up.
His students.
Where's Dangling, everybody? I don't know. He's looking at his film.
One of the things that Bigfoot supporters always say about the Patterson film is it couldn't be hoax because the creature is walking with a compliant gait and that humans don't walk that way. And
unless
Dangling
they're really hot and sweaty with big boots on and a fur,
Well, Dangling is even more, his answer is simpler than that. He's like, do you ever watch a Marx Brothers movie? And it's like, Groucho Marx walks with a compliant gait. You bend your hip and you bend your knees. Yeah.
Every comedian does, because he made it. That's a part. It's like knowing Yiddish. Yeah. If you're a comedian and you don't know Yiddish and you don't know how to walk like Groucho, what the hell are you doing with your life?
Yeah. Yeah. But again, it's like, well, no, people can't do that. It's like, we all can do that. Compliant game.
We just have to do it. We have to be compliant.
Yeah. By the way, I had a professor in grad school who would give us, every year would give us extra credit if we would walk like a primate down the hallway.
That's great.
Yeah.
What a great professor. I love that.
Yeah. It was so fantastic to be like in a group of 15 people all walking. Like, I would usually do the Gibbon,
Yeah, you went full on.
Yeah. I'm like, this is the best thing ever.
I would have done this for free, Prof.
Yeah. Extra credit. When do you want us to stop?
Should we start throwing poop at each other too?
And again, you mentioned already, besides the Patterson film, the one piece of evidence which Grover Krantz said really persuaded him was a footprint that he called, these are his words, not mine, cripple foot.
Very famous.
Yeah. And what he thought, he said he had studied a lot of footprints, and he could always tell that when they were fakes. And he also did a lot.
See, that's the part of him I can relate to, the hubris.
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And in his book, he's very detailed about like what a footprint actually does when you're walking in dirt.
Right.
And he said, there was something unique about Cripplefoot, and that is it portrayed a foot injury.
Yeah. It was a footprint that with like the pinky toe was off to the side.
Yeah.
It looked like, the creature had broken its foot.
Right.
And he's like, there's no way anybody could fake that because it's anatomically correct.
Right. Exactly.
This is how a broken foot on an 8 foot, 700-pound creature that didn't heal would look. And there's no way anybody could fake it.
Right. And he said, like, the possibilities, there are some
Zero.
people who could do it, but they're all academics, and the chances of them hoaxing that are next to nothing.
And even that's very difficult because you have to, just mechanically to do it. We can put a man on the moon, but the possibility of faking a footprint, no.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we saw in the hoax episode, the Pilltown episode, there are academics that are willing to go out and hoax other academics.
My partner is smartly referencing a previous podcast of our season, so please go back and check that out.
Right.
The Piltdown Man.
He also said, Grover Krantz said that there were two things about footprints that he didn't reveal to the public. He didn't, and that never let anybody know, but there were two things
it's
that
like
he
the cops
knew.
When they keep a secret thing from a serial killer. Yeah.
Yeah. And he said that Cripplefoot had those two things in it, and that's why he thought it was an authentic footprint. But again, without knowing what made the footprint, we have no idea if that was hoaxed or not. Well,
we have a good don't we have because there were some people out there that later were discovered who were making footprints out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. And usually, Grover Krantz, his thing was like, I can tell if they just have a piece of plywood that they're just setting it down. But hoaxers are smart, man. Hoaxers are always one step ahead of all of us.
That's
you know what I mean?
Because it's fun as hell to freak people out. We love confusing people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so ultimately what Dangling says is...
Dangling.
There's a ton of evidence for Bigfoot. A mountain of evidence. The problem is that none of the evidence is any good.
Right.
So again, he's basically saying, we have all these films. We have, we find some hair, but sometimes we analyze it and the hair is from another animal, or sometimes the hair is synthetic. We still need that body.
You need the body. You got to kill one.
Yeah. And I get it that it can be really frustrating for people who want proof or want Bigfoot to exist. I get it.
Me too.
But the thing is, if you want it to be scientific, then anthropology is a science and biology is a science. And again, you have to submit whatever evidence you have to the scientific method. And part of that scientific method is letting other people look at your research.
Yes.
And your research needs to be repeatable,
Yes.
And so, in their book, How to Think About Weird Things, which is a great book, Theodore Schick and Louis Vaughn describe the scientific method, and it says that they say that it has 4 steps. We observe something, which would be like, observing a Bigfoot.
Right.
Or what we think is a Bigfoot. Then you induce a general hypothesis or possible explanation for what you've observed.
there's a big hairy thing running around the
Right.
forest that
How
could
can we come
possibly
up
be related to us.
right? And then you just deduce specific things from your hypothesis.
If that's the case, he would have poo. He would
Right.
he would build a campsite. He would
Yeah.
yeah, all of these
Yeah.
things. We'd see carcasses of things he'd eaten and fruit and his
Right.
teeth marks and all of those things.
Right. And then we test the hypothesis by checking out the deduced implications. So
Let's
then you
find a
have
piece
to
of
repeat
fruit.
it. Yeah, you have to repeat it.
Uh-huh.
And Schick and Lewis say that the goal of the scientific inquiry is to identify principles that are both explanatory and predictive.
Yes.
And just collecting data without a hypothesis that you are trying to test means that we are just ending up with a lot of data.
Yes.
And that's kind of what we have. I think even ghosts, which we're going to do an episode on ghosts eventually too.
I have no doubt.
But again, it's the same thing. It's like you can have a lot of footage of something, but if you want it to be scientifically proven,
taken seriously,
you have to come up with some sort of hypothesis that can be tested and proved.
Exactly.
So,
for example, if there's a bunch of bunch of things being said on the internet, about a topic, that's just data, and you've got to be able to prove it in another way. You've got to be able to corroborate it.
Yeah, and
you have a hypothesis of how it happened, and then you have to prove that hypothesis.
Right.
But if you just have a bunch of hearsay evidence, no one's going to take it seriously.
Yeah.
It may be true. There may be a Sasquatch. There may be, some of these things, but until they are proven, we cannot take it seriously.
Yeah. And whatever the data is or the hypothesis you come up with, you have to submit that to other experts and let them test it, because it has to be repeatable.
Yes.
And, one of the reasons why we submit it for peer review is so that we don't fall for bogus claims.
Yes.
And a good example of that was, remember in 1989, there were some scientists in Utah who said that they had come up with cold fusion. They were able to produce energy through cold fusion. And
which
instead
would have changed everything.
Yeah. And instead of submitting their experiment, or their data, their research to peer review, they immediately went to public media. Yeah. And the media just went crazy with it. Like, oh my God, they've created, cold fusion. They've done cold fusion. And when experts finally started looking at it, other scientists, they were like, there's something off about this. Yeah. It's not right. And sure enough, come to find out, they hadn't done cold fusion.
No.
So again, that's why you want to have other people, other scientists look at your work and test it themselves and see if they get the same result you did. Mm-hmm. And usually what we do from a scientific standpoint is if, a hypothesis that's constantly found to be true repeatedly is called a theory.
Yes.
And usually that creates a confusion for the public, because the public always thinks about a theory as being, they use theory interchangeably with hypothesis.
Yes. Yes.
And
thus conspiracy theory, the actual term conspiracy theory.
Right. But to a scientist, a theory is a hypothesis that has been repeatedly tested and repeatedly holds true.
And then so the theory is kind of the story, the proposed story of why all of these hypotheses, are coming. Are
hypotheses, I think.
Hypotheses are all being proven. What's the theory? Why is this always happening over and over and over and over?
Yeah.
There must be a thing called gravity. I have a theory that there's a force called gravity.
Right. And that's interesting that you mention that, because I know a lot of scientists or, anthropology teachers, science teachers will say, up to this point, the theory of gravity, based on what we know right now, the theory of gravity says that when I drop my keys, they will fall to the ground.
Yes.
But I still keep an open mind that I may do it 1,000 times, but on 1,001, there still might be a possibility that those keys fly off into the sky.
Right. Because scientists, that's how they have to think.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in other words, so it kind of, when you talk about like, scientists don't want to believe anything. Scientists don't want to believe what's out there. It's like, no, I find it hard. Scientists do want to believe, but they want to know. They want to know that it's tested. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's hard to think about scientists who, these are scientists have split the atom or unraveled DNA. It's hard to say that, they don't want to believe anything. They don't want to know, I think it takes a lot of belief to constantly show up in a lab and keep testing hypotheses.
Absolutely. A lot of faith. A lot of faith.
Yeah. And so, the problem for when it comes to Bigfoot is, a lot of people are more familiar with pseudoscience than they are with actual science.
Yeah.
And, this includes students as well as the public. And I would say there are probably even scientists who are, more drawn to pseudoscience. And why is because pseudoscience is great. There's more drama in pseudoscience.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. It's great for movies and TV shows. And you get, you get to go on, be a guest on something. And I will say, like, reading Big Footprints by Grover Krantz, and we've kind of touched upon it, is there are times where I feel like he's running through problems with his argument, or, and it's kind of like in TV writing, what's the term, like, running through the bees? Isn't that what they say? Or,
yes.
Where there's a problem in your script, like stuff isn't lining up, but you're just going to write through it real quickly and hope people don't notice.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you'll find like a beat that's not working and you're just like, just keep going. They won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait a minute. What?
Yeah. And I find that in his book, and I completely get, but and you mentioned it, a lot of the stuff he says are where nobody would ever try to hoax that. Nobody would ever try to fool somebody. And there are people that would try to fool.
Exactly. And that's why these scientists sometimes get pulled into pseudoscience. We were saying, and you get that a lot. Well, like vaccinations causing what is it?
Autism.
Yeah. Autism. So that all tracks back. And my understanding is that all tracks back to one study. And there were like, I don't know, there were like, say, a dozen scientists involved in that study. All 11 of them have rescinded that theory, except for one. But then you have that one that you can, what about the doctor, PhD? And you say his credits, you're like, yes, but that's just one, one piece. But until it's proven, until you have a lot of people repeating it over and over and over, you just can't accept that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's,
but the fact is that these scientists fall into it. They're human like us. For whatever reason, Grover S. Krantz, even though he was this amazing anthropologist, amazing guy, something pulled him into Bigfoot. Something.
Yeah.
And now the fact that this, and he slipped.
Yeah. Because I think, once again, there's nothing worse than spending years working on a scientific problem.
Yeah.
And then having the evidence come up. Yeah. Something's off, or you made a mistake. It's hard.
I hear them. I've developed TV shows.
I know.
That have taken me years. And then I go out and pitch it. Nobody buys it. It's terrible. Yeah. But that's true. That's the way it is.
Yeah. I hate getting notes from TV executives. When I would get TV notes, there's nothing worse. But it's like, you got to take it.
Yeah,
it's part of the job.
Yeah.
Yeah. In his obituary, it was interesting that one of his colleagues said that, quote, he was a person who liked to take on controversial issues in his own field of physical anthropology, and he was willing to look at things that other people in this field wouldn't look at. He wrote an early paper on the influence of language on human evolution that was way ahead of its time. He said he liked to take on an underdog hypothesis and make it credible. Yes. And of course, the Sasquatch hypothesis is an underdog.
is the ultimate underdog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's where he got, he got the hubris. I'm the guy. Here's
Right.
my version of me. I'm the guy who takes hypotheses that
Yeah.
are hard to prove, and I prove them.
Right. And I could get, it's fun. It's fun, but then it's like it begins to creep into everything else.
Yeah. And then at the end, right? He's driving around trying to kill Sasquatch, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He had finally, I mean, first of all, the book he's quite aware of how people interpret him.
Yeah.
From an academic standpoint.
Yeah.
And which is amazing to me because there's a self-awareness, and he's like, he goes in and he talks about, it was hard for him to get tenure. He think maybe the Sasquatch research kept him from getting tenure. He also says that, he spent a lot of his own money. They had set up a.
Didn't his marriage break up over it, or
I think one? But then he also met his wife through one of his articles about Sasquatch.
Yeah, he met somebody who bought into his.
Yeah. And there's a photo in the book of him like in a like ultralight helicopter, like sitting on the ground. And I'm like, and he's talking about how he's going to, he had bought it himself because no one would ever donate any money for all of this stuff. Nobody would donate any money to his research. So it was all out of pocket. Oh, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's a great idea. That'd be quiet and everything. And then you read where like there was some flaw in the design and it never got off the ground.
Right. Boy, you don't want to get in those things. You ever been up close to one of those things? It's like a lawnmower engine strapped to a kite. It's the craziest thing. Don't go in those.
And so again, it's revealing that he says in the book, quote, "It was never my intention to become a leading academic authority on the Sasquatch, and I'm not particularly comfortable with the position." Yeah. Unquote. So very fascinating guy. So like you say, John, at the end, he was driving around. He knew that he had to get that type specimen.
Yeah, he had to get a body.
Yeah.
And so here's this like this heavily educated PhD, spending the last days of his life driving around with a gun, trying to shoot a mythical being.
Yeah.
I can so relate to that.
Me too.
I mean,
It's like I'll show you,
Yeah. But there's also a component to it that's so beautiful because it's a dream. It's a you're out there trying something that nobody else is doing. I mean, but there's hubris attached to it too. It's very complicated. It's very human.
Right.
It's such a modern man story,
Yeah. It's he does talk about how there's no laws against shooting what's right now is an imaginary creature, so he's like, you could shoot them. Maybe after we kill the first one, there will be laws that will protect it. But right now, he's like, game's on. I mean, we can all.
He's like, I've gotten all the evidence I can get. I need to shoot him and chop his head off.
Yeah. And I like where he talks about how with practice, he goes into detail about it. He says with practice, he was able to drive around out in the country and in the woods at 25 miles an hour, then stop the car, set the brakes, turn on the extra lights, pick up and load the gun, and be standing at point outside the car in about 15 seconds.
Oh, that just breaks my heart. Because that's where the insanity has crept all the way in.
Yeah.
That just breaks my heart.
Yeah. And he says,
this old man is rehearsing that over and over and over. Oh.
Yeah. And he says, you have to know what you're looking for because he once saw what looked like a Bigfoot out in the woods.
Oh, boy.
But he said that he could tell by the stature it was shorter than what a Bigfoot was. And it was somebody in a hoodie.
Oh, boy.
Can you imagine? As if there's not enough danger to be wearing a hoodie anywhere now.
Jesus.
You might have
Don't wear a hoodie out in the woods all alone. Don't do that. But that's like those, and my God, what a tragic end to his life would that have been?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you hear about people in their old age, just tragically killing their spouse or something where it's just, oh my God. My wife has this story of the guy dropping off his wife at the, he was in his 90s. He shouldn't have been driving. He drops her off at the hair salon. She comes out. He accidentally runs over her and then backs up her and just kills his wife at the end of it. It's just so tragic.
Just to live so long and then.
But Grover S. Krantz practicing that stance and the ability to get his gun going, he was right. It could have easily ended with him killing somebody.
Yeah. This week, did you see in Germany, there was, they were reporting outside of Berlin that somebody had spotted an escaped lioness, and they had video footage of it from a cell phone. And when I first saw it, when I looked at the footage, I was like, oh my God, that's a lioness. And then they had experts look at it, and they had already sent out the police, schools were closed, everything. And when an expert looked at it, he was like, that's a boar. And he was showing pictures compared to what a boar looks like leaning down and what a lioness would. Wow. And sure enough, like once you saw an expert detail it, you were like, that's not a lioness. That's something else,
Well, but I would say, aren't boars really dangerous? Like they'll boars are like, don't we have big problems in America with wild boars, and you have to put armor on the dogs to go chase them down and shoot them, and they're hard to, so. Yeah.
In Europe too, it's bad. I guess in Rome,
they're like rats.
Rome and Germany. Yeah. So anyway, just concluding, I'll just say that, in 1893, there was a guy named Frederick Jackson Turner. He was a historian, and he wrote like a really famous essay about the frontier and how important the concept of the frontier was to Americans, and how Americans had always identified themselves in relation to the frontier.
Yes.
And what he was writing about in 1893 was he was lamenting the fact that we had already expanded all the way across the continent to the Pacific, and there was no longer a frontier for us to use to base who we were.
That's easily accessible. Right.
And in an essay called Cryptozoology in the Medieval and Modern Worlds, Peter Dindal says that
Dindal.
You're one of those students. Peter Dindal says that maybe these mythical beasts, such as Bigfoot, allow us to find ourselves at the very threshold of the wilderness once more, often from the comfort of our home. And in other words, maybe we need Bigfoot to be seen in Florida and Ohio and Pennsylvania, because seeing him there is a way for us to still confront that unknown and dangerous frontier. So,
because the real unknown, the real frontier is within us now.
Yeah.
Is going inside us, and that, and really, and that's why we're going to, invent, chips to put in our brain, and we're all going to become digitized energy.
Yeah.
And that's why we have this podcast, to look at our belly button, to look within. The final frontier is inside us. It's Raquel Welch and that little miniature spaceship. That movie was great.
Oh, yeah.
God, she was amazing. Remember, they come out the eye at the end.
Remember was that through the tear duct, right?
Yeah. So they're in the eyeball, splashing around.
It's only a matter of time. Chat GPT is going to miniaturize us.
We already are. See, this is just a simulation that we've created.
Yeah. Oh, God.
All right. I have lots of hypotheses.
Okay. Well, that's what, maybe we'll save that for one. Then you could, open mic. You could just go. All right, John. I think we've
This is wonderful.
Hope we've come up with something. I mean,
this is our best. This is a fantastic episode. I just want to applaud you. You put a lot of work into this, and I just love it. Grover S. Krantz is one of my heroes. He's just you turned me on to him, and I'm just so. Oh my God! I just relate to him.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And I would say his book is the good thing about his book. I mean, whether or not you believe in his arguments for Bigfoot, but he has an insight, an awareness about the whole academic research into Bigfoot and about the Bigfoot community. Like I said, people had convinced him, like somebody convinced him to go to an art gallery in San Francisco that was doing an exhibit on feet. Mm-hmm. And they said, why don't you take your cast of Cripplefoot, and it'd be great exposure because you'll get to go down there and there'll be people with money and they'll want to donate to you. And it's just one of those things where he goes down there and he's like, nobody contacted him afterwards. No one donated any money to it. Yeah. And
they just laughed at him.
Yeah, as an anthropologist, as a scientist, as an artist, as a human being, you have to feel compassion for somebody like that. So.
Yes, we've all had that horrific failure.
Right,
that moment
right.
Nobody gives a shit about what we think.
Everything you've devoted your life.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
All right. If you have enjoyed this podcast and find it interesting, please tell a friend about it.
Yes.
Or perhaps host an Intro to Anthro listening party.
And I love that.
Send us photos of your listening party. I'm envisioning, John, like Franklin Roosevelt's fireside chats, like a whole family sitting around listening to the podcast. That's what I'm thinking.
Dressed up. They were all dressed up, too.
Oh, yeah.
FDR thing. So wear your finest.
I was thinking, too, we should put together, have them available, Intro to Anthro with two humans listening kits. And we'll have like a bald wig and a gray wig, and then people can, just...
That's fantastic.
Or better yet, we'll do a Yeti Love convention in Las Vegas.
Oh, God.
That would be.
Well, that one's going to be video. We got to video everybody. I don't know who's going to show up to that. We'll try to post some photos of the Yeti Love coloring book.
Yeah.
So you can get a look at that. But if you're watching us on YouTube, you've already seen it.
Right. I think we should color them and then frame them, and then that'd be our giveaway if we use a topic.
I love that. That's like our headshot that we send out. That's fantastic. But they're detailed. It's going to take a long time to color them.
Oh,
it's not a small job.
Know. Yeah.
Yeah. We can't do that in an afternoon.
Oh. Do you think those were done by hand, or
I do. We made a bean portrait of a friend of ours for his wedding. Did not go over well, but
it's a collector's item now, I'm sure.
I wonder where that is. But it was a huge framed portrait of he and his bride to be, made out of beans, and that took a long time.
Yeah, it was like an emergency thing. I always thought that was like a fire axe in a glass case. Because if you were ever broke, if you were ever broke, you could eat that thing.
Yeah. Right. Put them in, soak them, boil them up, and eat them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always there. Like I always got one last meal.
And in the meantime, it's a nice piece of art.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate it.
So appreciate it. This is Human Number 2.
And this is Human Number 1, John McCray. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you again. Thanks.
Bye.